Welcome to another day, and what is probably another video. To recap here real quick, and we did steaming on our dashboard, and it seemed to turn out okay. It's not perfect, but again, it's something that's flexible enough that it'll fit. That's all it needed to do. And the problem was before, the center was out too far, and by the time you pushed it in, it was just going to rip the whole thing apart. So we've got our bend in it the way it needs to be, the inside arc, and yeah, we'll just leave that until we're ready to do some upholstery. Which also brings me to the windshield. We went ahead and got our vitro taken off. Does look pretty good, I gotta say. I mean, again, we're talking about a 50-year-old windshield, which has stuff like that in it, if it'll focus. So yeah, it's got its rashes and bangs. I'm sure it's hit a few things. I'm sure a few things have hit it. As I was saying before, if I was to get all this out, I would have to polish this thing down to like nothing. And I mean it. I mean, some of this, I mean, there's digs in this dog, man. Somebody hit it with something hard right here. That's a nice dig. It's filled in now. We got it cleaned out and we got it filled in with some wax. So, I mean, it won't be like too obvious, but it is what it is. I also know that I don't have all the pieces to actually install the windshield today, but I do have enough pieces, of course, to put the frame in. So that is going to be the start, because it's so damn complicated. Like I said, I mean, the way the glass is pinned, the glasses all has to be cut out because of the angle of the deck and the curvature of the windshield. You guys with these square panels, you're lucky. I mean, nice square flat panels. This is curved. And they used to have them custom curved with like 1/4 inch plexiglass. And yeah, you can't even find people to do that stuff anymore. So we're going to use Lexan to actually fill it in, and it has a nice curvature too, and it looks fine, so it's not a big deal. It's easy to replace when you actually do have the patterns to copy. At the moment, we don't. But the only way I'm going to know what's missing is actually to get it installed and get the pieces I do have at least where it should be. I'm sure most of y'all look at it and say, oh, it's just a windshield, what's the big deal? Just slap it on the boat. And it's like, yeah, as I said, these things are complicated. I mean, and the worst thing is they're a terrible design to begin with, and they're still complicated. And we've had discussed, meaning the SuperNova 19 community, have discussed actually putting a channel around the bottom. And that would actually close it in and make it a whole lot nicer. The only problem is people have tried, and to get the actual curvature along with the deck, you end up with gaps and all kinds of stuff. So it just looks weird. It really does, and it boxes in the frame. It makes the windshield look weird. I mean, it already looks a little unique as it is. We don't need to add weirdness to it. But it's time to get something done, and that requires me doing something. You wouldn't think it would take half the stuff in my garage to actually get this frame on, but it did. It was twisted, it was bent, it was wrong. Didn't want to go this way, it didn't want to go that way. But it's on. Looks like it needs a little bit of modification here and there, but besides that, that's a huge plus. And on top of that, the way it's anchored down now from earlier videos when I showed you all that how we rebuilt the thing. Yeah, you could actually hit a boat with a windshield and it'll probably bounce off of it. So it's a couple hours down. Now I need to start thinking about fitting glass, but first I have to regroup. To close out our day here, we got our 2 pieces of Lexan in. That one there, about 3 hours. Yeah, I'm not kidding, it was a pain. I think I may have made 50 alterations. I mean, it's just amazing. This one over here, you'd think, oh, carbon copy. No. It didn't require as many alterations, maybe about 5, 6. Nice having patterns. I know I have them sitting right there, but I'm sure if I took those pieces out here now, they'd probably break. You know, it's only been 10 years since they've been changed, so even Lexan will take a shape over that kind of time. But we got both in. We got our drip gasket along the bottom here. It's a little peaked. Just came out of a package that was rolled up sitting underneath of something else. I will go back over a little bit of time and just put a little adhesive inside of here after we get all the plastic off and such, and they could actually seal down. Along with that also, that's what those hooks and eyes do that draw the actual windshield down. That's why it's got a little bit of a gap right here also on the inside. Right along there, a little bit of gappage going on, but once those hooks and eyes in, it'll actually draw it down. And then you actually, with these holes at the top, you actually pin the glass in the frame, and it's all one big unit. I'm telling you, this thing was flimsy before. Now you can move the boat around with it. I mean, it's amazing. So yeah, that's it. A little rushed right now because I'm on my way to depot because I need a crap load of stuff to even continue on with the windshield or anything else for that matter. So time for me to fly. See ya. Just starting another day, and who is making all that noise? That makes you hot. Just getting ready for the weekend. Gotta wash the thing, it's filthy. $98 at Home Depot. Now all of this isn't for the windshield. There's like 2 of these bolts. Maybe a piece of pipe, I think. Yeah, there's 1 or 2 pieces of pipe. But you could probably say about $80 worth of that is for the windshield. And then you got this big pile of hardware also. And that's not what's in the boat already. Like I said, needed studs, needed bolts, needed washers, needed angled washers, which are little spacers that I cut at an angle. So because they go in, the studs for the windshield actually go in at an angle. And if you try to put a nut on it that's straight up and down at an angle, it just gets cocked and stuck in there sideways and you can't tighten it because it is that much of an angle. So I actually had to cut, instead of a flat piece of washer, I had to cut them at 45. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of pieces. Like I said, I bet you there's more hardware in the windshield than there is in the rest of the accessories that go on the boat. I'm not talking about the dashboard and electronics and stuff like that, but like cleats, vents, you know, lighting, stuff like that. There's more hardware in that one windshield than there is all of that. So that's what we were saying before about how if they had another frame in the bottom and you could just slip a piece of glass in this thing and just bolt it up, it'd be a wonderful thing, but it's nowhere near like that. Here we are packing up for the evening. I gotta say, forgot how difficult these things really are. I know I'm harping on this windshield because it is taking me forever. Didn't really spend a lot of time. I mean, I started this about 5:30. It's about 7:30, 8 o'clock now. Yeah, it's just kind of remembering how everything goes together. And I know I've got this over here to look at. Yeah, the beast. Just letting it dry out. I think I may even leave it uncovered for the night. It's got a serious washing out inside and outside. Everything was sprayed down with mold release and everything else, and then mold protectant, everything. It's been saturated, so we're just gonna probably leave it open tonight. But back to this. Yeah, I forgot on how these brackets all need to be bent special ways. You know, it's not even just a single bend. It's got to go kind of this way and then straight up. So it's a double bend, and then you got to bend them again and bend them again. Then you get those in, and you have to drill the windshield. Then I had to make up studs. The screws that I have are entirely too long at 1 inch, so I wasn't going to take a chance. So they're all custom made. And then on top of that, as I was saying before, we have this down here. I'll take it down under in the cabin. And these guys, they come out at this angle, as you can see. And yeah, we have to actually make, see this little spacer right here? It's cut at a 45, or yeah, somewhere around there. Maybe a 40. And that way it can take up the slack, and you can actually use regular washers and all that good stuff and nuts without having an issue. Eventually, as I'm done, I will actually trim this off or put some sort of plastic stud on top of it so it actually covers it. So it's slow going, but I need to figure out what I need to make first before I actually make it. So I couldn't even prepare. I do have like $100 worth of hardware, so I was preparing as much as I could, but you can only prepare so much. And some of this stuff is going to have to be custom made, because like I was saying before, once I get the pull on those, it'll pull these down just a little bit, and then you anchor them in up here in these holes. You actually put a bolt right through there, or a screw, basically a machine screw, and that way they actually used to rivet them in, and the problem with rivets is they actually expand, and when they expand they break things, so we can't put rivets back in. Now that I kind of know what I'm doing, I mean, the second one, quote unquote, should be easier, but we'll see. As long as it kind of follows this same pattern, which, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get prepped up for. We'll see. Fingers are crossed. But that's it for the night, guys. See ya. Welcome to, I don't even know what to call it, day. Yeah, yesterday, got my 19 all cleaned up, thinking I'd probably go out today. They were calling for some light showers in the morning, possibility. You know, I know this seems like a daily weather report, but now they're actually talking about it's a 50-50 shot pretty much the whole day, and as it progresses, it's going to get worse. And we've even had a couple little sprinkles just a minute ago. And as I'm coming out here to work on the windshield, there's just another one. Not really sure what's happening. It's very defeating, to be honest. I'd like to have a good day and get something done. And I have a weekend day, which means I had pretty much all day. The morning was wiped out like it is, and now I'm in a holding pattern just waiting. This is the way the day's going. So if you're wondering what's going on here, well, I kind of am too. So I gave up on the windshield. I also screwed up the gasket at the bottom and put a slit in it that I didn't want to, so I have to order a new one of those anyway. It will not prevent me from actually finishing the windshield, which I can replace the gasket after the fact. But it's just the whole day. I mean, it hasn't been a millimeter of rain, and yet the whole day it has been raining. So what I decided to do is go hide in the garage a little bit and started working on a bracket for this actual cleat right here. Of course, it has a giant piece of all thread attached to it, and it comes down, as you can see through the hole here, down to about here. And what I need to do is be able to attach it to the wooden piece of the transom, because that way all the lifting load comes from the transom and not from just this deck up here. Even though that deck, I'm telling you, I mean, that thing was so hard, and it's like a drum. I mean, it really is. It's amazing on how tight that thing is now. But like I said, you can't put all the stress of everything on that. So I'm making a bracket here, and what I've done is I'm going ahead and made an A-frame. It's extremely hot still yet. And after I get done grinding on it and such, I'm going to put this piece of tube right here, which used to be black 3/4 inch pipe, but now it's just a piece of tube, and I'm going to weld that up to that, and then I'll drill holes. I'll make sure this is actually the right length also, because I just want to make sure they stay exactly the same. Then I'll drill holes here and here. That's what will attach it to the transom, and the all thread will go right through this piece here and be bolted on the back side of it. At least that's the plan. I mean, it's something that I can do in a garage, and it's going to be coming up here eventually to be actually install this. So what else should I do on a rainy, crappy day like today? So I'm going to go ahead and let that finish cooling off, and then I'm going to grind it down so it's nice and smooth, and then go ahead and weld my pipe up, as I was saying. And from there, I guess it'll be trimming and cold galvanizing. So we decided we're going to pull out a welder, make some brackets and all that good stuff. Things that were going to take a long time. And what I mean by that, this thing looks real simple. I mean, look at this thing. It's just kind of like an A with a piece of pipe welded to it. But what happens in my situation is my welder isn't plugged into a welding station. So I have to go get it, bring it out, plug it all up, have to go get the rods, have to go get the helmet, the gloves, this, that, the other thing. And by the time I get out here, it's 20 minutes later. Then I have to actually make it, then I have to clean up everything and put it all back where it was. If not, by tomorrow I'll come out here and I'll have to do the garage shuffle trying to get through it, because everything has a place and it's not in the middle of the floor. So in that spirit, I also went ahead and cut my blocks for my U-bolts here that go on the transom. They had some old funky plywood or something like that, which was all delaminating and falling apart. So we just found a really good piece of 2x12. And I mean, this is a solid piece. I built a deck with it a couple of years ago, and I've had it sitting around out here for a while. It's heavy as all get out. So, I mean, it's a really good piece of wood. I know I'm bragging about wood. Hey, what other man doesn't? But it is. It's a nice solid wood. They're already been drilled out. These guys, they need to be like scrubbed with some Brillo pads and make them nice and shiny and new again. I seem to have lost one of the bolts, which I don't think will be a big deal. We're hoping not. And along the way, we are also galvanizing, cold galvanizing, whatever, our all thread and a couple bolts that will go with it. It should be good to go. I got to paint my bracket white after the galvanizing that I put on it dries. I have good luck with that, and it wouldn't seem like it. It would seem like the galvanizing would fall off and take the paint with it. It doesn't really do that. I guess there's so much binders in the actual galvanizing that the paint actually sticks to it well. So another 10 or 15 minutes, I'm gonna go ahead and hit it with some white paint just to make it inconspicuous inside the motor box, and then call it a night. It's just been one of these days, man. Just one of these days. It's I don't think it's rained 1/8 of an inch. I don't think it's rained a millimeter, to be honest. I mean, my concrete would stay dry, but the windshield would get wet. I mean, this is like it's been all day. Either way, it's pretty much my day. As I said, I'm gonna go ahead and knock this out, and we will pick this up again tomorrow. Welcome to another day, and I say that cheerfully this time because it's not raining or threatening to rain or misting for 8, 10, 12 hours during the daylight hours. And the best part about yesterday was at about 7:30 the sun peeked out just a little bit and it cleared overnight, but at least it gave us today. In the process, we've got our little bracket painted from yesterday. Come hell or high water, one again, I keep using this term because we're in that kind of situation with this boat. We are going to finish the windshield. I went ahead and I already ordered a new gasket. Yeah, like I said, I made a slit in it. It was the wrong slit, and it's going to show plain as day. Yeah, it'll be one of those things you look at and go, damn it, damn it, damn it, every time you look at the boat. That's the objective as of today so far. Hopefully this one goes pretty simply and we can do some other things that we worked on yesterday. I really had plans on taking the beast out here, old time warp. I've been fighting this issue for about 1.5 years now, and it's the oddest thing. And I have replaced batteries, the key switch in the dashboard. I've checked wiring, I've redone ends, I've done everything, and I keep finding that it's like it's dead. I mean, I've got 2,000 cold cranking amp juice in this boat. I mean, it should actually weld the starter to the block if it has a problem. Well, the only thing I can come to a conclusion is that the starter has an issue. It's one of those high torque, mini starters. This boat goes through starters left and right. I mean, I say that, but it's like every 3 years. It's just the starter ends up getting weird. I don't know what the deal is. I mean, it's only like 10.5, 10.25 to 1 compression in this motor. It shouldn't be eating starters up left and right. And I'm telling you, that's one thing I will not deal with on the water, is a bad starter. I mean, if the boat doesn't start, it's one thing. And the one thing usually is I pulled the lanyard. I've had that embarrassment before, trust me. But it's entirely a different subject when you're talking about when you hit the key and nothing happens. Okay, so I'm not playing that. I've already got a new starter on order. I actually went with a nice upgraded one. I am not telling the wife about it until after it shows up. Beg for forgiveness. Don't ask for permission, people. I'm just kidding. But either way, there she sits until we get a new starter. Just cleaning up real quick before we call it a night here. been really little to update everyone on, so hope you bear with me on this. We had a lot of plans for the day. None of them worked out. But that's the way it always goes. Windshield is 95% complete. The reason I say 95 is because we have two of these guys here, through bolts, or through screws that have nylon threaded nuts that go on the other side of them. I'm missing two nuts, so they're not done. And of course the other thing we have to do is replace the gasket, because Mark in his stupidity actually cut it 3 places here. I thought it was going to go up underneath it here, but it's not. It won't fit, and it just jams in place, kind of acts all weird. Again, this is kind of a universal gasket, so you got to kind of play with it. You know, there's really nothing else that I can do besides make it work. So that's what's happening there, and that got us up to a certain point of the evening. And then I came back here to the transom. Yeah. And I thought, you know what? Let's have some fun. So I went and grabbed a cleat and all its associated parts that we have sitting around waiting for it. And I thought, you know, that's probably the next big thing. I mean, there's a couple things that have to be done that are bigger projects, but that's probably the next big install, because all the rest of this stuff is just what it is. You know, I mean, hook a hose up to it, put the fill into the deck, and that's pretty much a done deal. As we looked at it, we thought, well, we do have to drill 2 holes through the transom, you know, here and here, to hook the all thread to the actual transom itself. And then it got us thinking, well, we really do need to wet sand and wax everything, blah blah blah, because we did the quick clear coat across the 2 where the white and the black join. So that's pretty much what we finished off our day with. Did some 3000, then went ahead with some McGuire's compound, diamond cut 2. From there, went ahead and did a coat of wax on it. That's as far as I'm going. I mean, it's not perfect yet. Go get it, boys, go get it. Finally, somebody's got some ass out here. So after that, we went ahead and we waxed, and yeah, it's pretty much like it's going to stay. I mean, it's good enough to install stuff. That's what I'm just, like I keep saying, that's all I'm trying to get to. And I didn't want to deal with bolts and things like that. It was just like, okay, I can deal with it. I can put a couple things in and deal with the bolts and all the rest of the stuff, or I can just do it now and save a couple things that I want to install for tomorrow. And speaking of tomorrow, hopefully we will put a final coat or 2 on the deck. It's like walking on sandpaper at the moment, and it's got all the overspray from the white and anything else that's happened inside the boat. I mean, we did the interior pieces, and then we went back and did them again and did them again, and did all the, you know, the wings and everything, so everything just fell right in the boat. It's going to need a light sanding, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to do the whole thing with Rust-Oleum. We also have to finish off our motor box, because if we don't, we can't put our lines in, fuel lines in for the tank, which means we can't put these in and this vent line in, and you know, it's just a snowball effect. But it's dark. I'm going to go turn my hose off and go turn myself off, and have a good evening. Welcome to another day. Hope you're having a good one, and if not, you know, like they say when going through hell, just keep on going. I know it's kind of flimsy advice when you're in a real crisis, but it's worked for me over the years. I just think that, you know, tomorrow's another day, and we'll face the new challenges or reality then. I know I've said 1,000 times that we're done with paint. We're done with paint. We're done with paint when we did the top. Well, now we're done with paint when we did the sides. Now we're done with paint when we did the bottom. Well, we're done with paint, and we're not. We're done with spraying, but we're not done with rolling and such. And today's objective, if I choose to accept it, which I don't think there's really an option in that matter, is to do a light sanding. All I'm going to do is roll over this with 120 and just on the deck itself, the sides and all that are fine. Everything else has been done 2 and 3 times already. That's the reason why I did it all while the top was off. Today, all I have to do is kind of like some of these gunnels here, you know, whatever's convenient. The floor is got to be sanded because, like I said, it feels like sandpaper with all the overspray and such on it. And then, of course, we got to do our motor box. You know, that hasn't been touched. It needs actually a little bit of sanding still on it also. And yeah, we're going to mix up our 4-to-1 Rust-Oleum white with Allmand, and that will give us that off-white color. As you can see, I mean, here's this broad daylight. As you can see, it's just not bright, brilliant white. I mean, that's brilliant white, I think it's called, the dashboard itself. And the deck is just a tad off of that. More of a basic color for an interior of a boat. And it's simple too, because, you know, 4 quarts of this, or buy 1 quart and mix it, you know, 4-to-1, and it comes out a perfect color. That's my piece of advice for today. But as I said, I need to do some sanding, which I'm absolutely dreading. I need to do some painting, which I'm not so dreading, being that it's roller and brush instead of actual spraying and wet sanding and everything else. But we do need to get this finished up because, as I said, there's hoses that need to be installed. I don't need to be painting around them. I'm already painting around the fuel line hose that had to be installed prior to actually putting it under the deck, because I was worried about how it was going to actually, I should be more worried about falling over that. I was more worried about, you know, whether I was actually going to have any access underneath the deck until it was installed. So we've been doing that, and it's a pain. I mean, that whole thing has to be cleaned off now eventually, and I didn't want to have to do that with fuel hoses and everything else. I mean, there's just no reason for it. So they're not calling for rain today, so the thing to do is to actually get this painted. I know it's not exciting stuff. Again, this is the real reality of restoring a boat. I mean, it's just a bunch of labor. It really is. I mean, on this boat, our materials list is actually stacked up quite considerably high compared to most. Mainly because of oil prices going up through the roof, and along with that, polyester resin. I mean, they're even out of stock in a lot of stuff. I mean, you can't even buy stuff. You just got to buy what's there. That's gone up, shipping's gone up, and this thing needed a crap load of fiberglass. I mean, we're literally making pieces, you know. I mean, usually you're doing repairs. Hole here, you know, problem there, maybe some stringers, what have you. Worst case, you're doing a transom. I mean, you're not building seats, replacing decks. I mean, yeah, this has turned into, you know, transom, stringers, motor mounts, decks. It's just going on and on and on. So it's really stacked up. But the real thing is the labor. It really is. It's 100%. Your parts list, 20% of the cost. If I was charging, it would be 80% would be labor. And for the most part, it's boring ass labor. I mean, just boring. I mean, honestly, I mean, I'm going to spend the next hour sanding a deck. How exciting. When you're done, you look at it and say, yeah, it kind of looks like it did. I mean, to me it won't, because it's not on camera, and of course, you know, I can feel it. But again, it's just boring ass work. And that separates the wheat from the chaff, or the men from the boys, or whatever you want to say, is the guys who will actually, or girls who will actually go back and go back and go back and go back and go back, even though it's the same mundane, boring crap that they're doing day after day. You just can't make this shit up. I mean, honestly, when I mixed up the paint, it has a 20-minute setup time. So within the time I mixed the paint, hell, it didn't even happen that way. From the time I walked out to the boat, got into it, started painting. Of course the paint's mixed up, so I can't just say, oh, stop, just forget about it, because it'll go off in the bucket as easily as go off on the deck. And a thunderstorm starts, or at least thunder claps, and then within, I don't know, 3 to 5 minutes, here I am. It's raining. I got a third of the deck done. I've done parts of the motor box. I've got paint mixed up, and I've got these 2 little deck lids to do now, because the rest of the boat won't be ready till at a minimum 5-6 hours after it stops raining. And that's pretty much it for the day. See ya. And yeah, I mean, everybody else, I'm sure. Well, to close out our day here, there we go, let's do that. I mean, it heck, jeez, crack and go all kind of, I don't think but again, if we were to replace it, it would all have to be brand new. Another new mini starter for the 19. Ugh. Let's try that again. But 98% of this stuff, maybe not this nipple either. Alright, so here we are. Oh, great. Perfect crying time. Sorry to hear that, kid. Alright, let's go outside and do this. I'm gonna fix my nose. There, we'll just add that in somewhere. What else? As I am right now, that didn't come out well. We'll chop that up.